I know it's been a tough week. I know it's been a very tough week. Uh, Realizing that all of the things that we had rallied to do did not come out the way we thought. Jeff, I'm reminded of how this country is, how we hope for change in this country called the United States of America. I know it's not what we thought would happen. Soon to be under the leadership again of a twisted and maniacal, egotistical man. I know, I know how this may make you feel. Matter of fact, I felt the same way. But I needed a reminder. I know how it make you question the results and the direction of this country. I know because I watched the votes as they came in, seeing the numbers rolled in one-sided for so long. Even when it seemed as if Kamala's numbers arose, she still could never catch up. It never got to where we wanted it to be or where we thought it should be. It's hard to get the result that we have when we weren't expecting it. I mean, after all the talk of the court trials that have been placed against this man, it seemed it would be a no-brainer. It seemed like it would be an easy choice. And it seemed as if the world would see it and would know what to do. All the flyers, the text messages, yard signs, social media posts, we thought it would be something that we all could agree on, that we would not go back. Yet, here we are, faced with the same man. This man that has proven that he has a set agenda to make this yet to be United States of America go back in time. Truth is, with all the smoke and mirrors and all the AI posts and all the bold statements and twisted things he has said, here we are faced with another term, the last term of this man who has weaseled his way back into the White House. I have to tell you, I was upset. But then I had a reminder of just how things go. For centuries dealing with oppression, centuries dealing with racism, centuries of unfair voting acts, centuries of unequal rights for people of color, centuries of unequal rights for women, unequal pay, centuries of dealing with uncategorized and unsolved deaths. Centuries of dealing with the fighting for the ability to be seen as a whole human and not just 1/3 of a person. Dealing with sit-ins, dealing with fire hoses being sprayed on us, dealing with dogs being released on us, being separate in schools, unfair education, unfair housing, unfair jobs, unfair democracy. Dealing with this for centuries. Yet, here we are, on the cusp of having a leader that can hold the Bible, that can't hold the Bible comfortably, let alone right side up. Two Corinthians. Dealing with a man who has no plan. Dealing with a man who tears down and not building up. I was upset too. But I had a reminder. A reminder of people like Albert Murray, who changed the way we talk about race from his essays. A person like Althea Gibson, who is known as the Jackie Robinson of tennis. Bayard Rustin, organizer of the March on Washington. Howard Thurman, who inspired Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Sadie Tanner Marcel Alexander, first black person to receive a PhD in economics. I had a reminder. Audre Lorde, a fierce poet. Ella Baker, who co-founded the Southern Christian Leadership Conference that Dr. King led. Fannie Lou Hamer, who said, "I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired." Jane Bolin, first black woman judge. Max Robinson, first black news anchor. I was reminded just what we're able to do in the face of adversity. That's just what happened to me this week, thinking about the presidential race. I had to remember what can be done and not to just focus on what has transpired. It's hard having to remember things. But do you remember? Do you remember for yourself? Do you remember what God has done for you in your life? Do you need a reminder of how you're not supposed to be sitting in somebody's church? Do you need a reminder of just where God brought you from? Do you need a reminder of how great God has been in your life? Do you need a reminder of how he has healed some of you? Do you need a reminder of how great and how many times he has brought you out? How many times he has made a bridge over troubled water? Do you need a reminder of how great God has kept you? Do you need a reminder of how he has taken your mind and made it slow down? Do you need a reminder of how even when you were broke, all your bills and things were paid? Do you need a reminder of how when you thought you didn't know how you was going to eat, God still gave you a hot meal? Do you need a reminder of how you thought that you wasn't going to make it out, but somehow, some way, God maneuvered that thing, changed some things around, and made you where you are? Do you need a reminder how he was picked you up out of your mess that you started? Do you need a reminder of how even if your life hasn't turned all the way around, it still don't look the way it used to? Do you need a reminder? I prayed and asked God. I said, God, give me something I can remind the people of just how great you are. For God, we're facing troubled times. God, you know who this man is. You know what the government's talking about. You know what's happening in this world. God, send me something that I can help the people and encourage them to understand and remind them just how good you are. God sent me to 1 Samuel chapter 12. And as I was reading 1 Samuel, I was encouraged by this book. For the sake of time, I only read chapter 12. But I encourage you to read 1 Samuel. Chapter 12 chronicles the farewell of Samuel to the people. He asked them, as Samuel being a priest, he said, what has he done to receive such malice and hateful treatment? He asked if he had stolen something or bribed or taken a bribe or cheated anyone. There, they could not find any fault in his work as the priest. But the children of Israel asked for a king, even though God had been providing for them for so long. This is where Samuel had to remind the people just who God was. Do you need a reminder? Matter of fact, in verse 6, it says, it was the Lord who appointed Moses and Aaron. He brought your ancestors out of the land of Egypt. He goes on to say, now stand here quietly before the Lord as I remind you of all the great things God has done. He goes on to say, when the Israelites were in Egypt and cried out to the Lord, he sent Moses and Aaron to rescue them from Egypt and to bring them into this land. But the people soon forgot about the Lord their God. So this is what God did. God handed them over to Sisera, the commander of Hazor's army, and also the Philistines and the king of Moab who fought against them. It goes on to say, then they cried to the Lord again and confessed, we have sinned by turning away from the Lord. There was just a reminder of what Samuel said to the people. And as a reminder of just how good God has been. But when Saul, sorry. When Saul came into the picture, Nahash was moving towards the children of Israel, towards them to kill them, and they asked for a king, and God gave them just what they wanted. Now, I want you to understand something. In 1 Samuel chapter 12, God didn't do it out of spite. He didn't do it out of anger. He didn't do it because he was trying to get them back. No. He did just what they asked. He gave them a king and a man by the name of Saul. And this is what Samuel teaches us here in chapter 12. He teaches us that things can change quickly. In chapter 11, Saul and the city of Jabesh, after they were threatened by the king of Nahash. In chapter 8, the people asked Samuel for a king, and Samuel anointed Saul. After Samuel anointed Saul, Saul ruled the kingdom. But Saul was rejected by God from chapters 13 to 15. Don't miss it. Even though Saul still held the title as king, God was not with Saul. Don't miss it. Saul ruled the kingdom, but God was not with him. He was anointed as king, and God gave the people what they wanted. And Saul ruled for 30 years, and God was not with him. He even took and spent most of those 30 years while ruling the kingdom to chase after David. And God had already made a replacement for Saul in David. And even though Saul was in the king position, he didn't have the favor of the Lord with him. As the Israelites split and followed Saul, and some went and worshiped idol gods, God still provided for his people. Even though there was a sick and twisted and tan man in office, God still reigned on the throne. I'm just here to remind us that even though things may not go the way you thought, even though things may seem a little troublesome, even if there is a man in office that has the title, that has the power, he does not hold all power. Because I don't know about you, but I'm reminded that my God still sits high and looks low. He still reigns. He still covers his children. He still watches over us. Remember that when all the other people who held office, God still made ways out of no way. He still watched over his people. Can I just remind us who was on the throne? No, don't miss it. I don't want to remind you of who should be in office. I don't want to remind you of who we all voted for, I hope. I'm not here to try and remind you of all the different things about our country. No, I'm here to remind you that our God still sits on the throne. Can I help you today? Get this. Moses had to deal with the evil king. Joshua had to deal with the evil king. Samuel had to deal with the evil king. Elisha had to deal with the evil king. Elijah had to deal with the evil king. Hezekiah had to deal with an evil king. All of them had to deal with an evil king, and even Jesus had to deal with an evil king. But can I tell you the grace about this text? That no matter what they tried to do, they neglected to realize that even after centuries and centuries, God still provided for them. I believe that God will do the same for us. Because it don't matter who sits in the government. My Bible says, my God shall supply all my needs according to the riches and glory of Christ Jesus. It doesn't matter who sits in the legislative branch. God will provide. It doesn't matter who sits in the executive branch, because my God will provide. It doesn't matter who sits in the judicial branch. No, because my God will provide. It doesn't matter who the congressmen or women are, because my God will provide. It doesn't matter who's in control of the house. My God will supply. And speaking of house, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. And it doesn't matter who sits in the White House, because my God still owns heaven and earth. I'm here to help somebody to understand that he may sit in the White House, but in my Father's house are many mansions. It doesn't matter what laws he changed, because I read God's word. And it doesn't matter who they put next to him. I know who sits on the right hand of God. Here's your reminder. God is able to do just what he said he will do. He's going to fulfill every promise to you. Guess what? Don't give up on God, because he won't give up on you. He's able. Preach, black man, I'm trying. God is still on the throne. And it doesn't matter what he does. The truth of the matter is, our God still reigns. And I'm not sure about you, but first Samuel chapter 12 helped me out. Here's why. 1 Samuel chapter 12 helped me out because of the simple fact that Samuel was trying to tell the people how to follow God. And even at the admonishment and the leadership of Samuel, being in direct connection with God, the people still wanted one of their own to lead them. Don't miss it. Don't miss it. The people wanted a king. The people wanted a president. The people rose up against Samuel and said, give us this guy. The people went to the polls and said, give us this guy. But wouldn't you know it, that in 1 Samuel, even the man that they chose led them to destruction. And I just believe that God has already seen this done before. And I believe that God's hand is already in the mix and moving things around, because no matter who the figurehead is, God still reigns. And I'm just here to remind somebody, you don't need to worry about who's in office. You need to worry about your prayer life. You don't need to worry about who's making the laws. You need to worry about God doing it for you. Don't focus on the office, focus on the throne. And I'm done. But I'm just here to help somebody understand that this is not anything new. This is not something that we've never seen before. There have been multiple people that have come before that have tried to do the very same thing. And guess what my God did? Come here. I told you before, Moses had to deal with one. But Moses went to the man and said, let my people go. It came so to the point that Moses and God had to go and take every firstborn, that there wasn't any blood over the doorway. Okay, maybe you missed it. Keep coming, keep walking with me. Moses had to deal with it. Joshua had to deal with it. Hezekiah had to deal with it. Isaiah had to deal with it. Jesus had to deal with it. To the point to where when Jesus was born, they had already set an order to kill him before. And I'm just here to help y'all to understand that this is the reminder that we need. We need to remember that God is still going to provide everything that we need. It doesn't matter who tries to come after us. It doesn't matter how many times they try and put us behind. God still reigns. And I just need to encourage somebody in here on this day to understand that you still have the power. You still have God on your side. How do I know? I'm glad you asked. Because in Psalms 23, it tells me he maketh me lie down in green pastures. It tells me that he will provide for us. And it says that even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, guess what? I will fear no evil. Why? Because thou art with me. And I don't care who's in office. I don't care who's in the house. I don't care who's in either branch. I know who provides for me. And my God shall supply all my needs. Oh, y'all ain't got to clap because I clap. I clap to give God praise. I clap to give God praise because I know he is going to do exceeding and abundantly above all we could ever ask or think. And I praise God because he sent his son to die for us. Why did he send his son? For times like this. So he can set up a reminder that I didn't die to allow you to go through this. No, baby, I died so that you could have life and have it more abundantly. Can I just have 5 or 6 people that understand God is still the one who sits on the throne? And I don't care what you may feel like you're going through. But baby, please understand that there is nobody that can knock God off his throne. There is nobody that can knock him off his seat. He may have the seat in the White House, but he doesn't have the seat to tell me where I can go. Because my God, who owns everything, who owns the cattle on 1,000 hills, my God, who has turned my life around, picked me up, turned me around, set my feet on solid ground. I'm reminded of how good he is. I'm reminded of how great he is. I'm reminded because Jesus died. Here's your reminder, and I'm done. Here's your reminder. It don't matter. Now, I know I said some bold statements before. Please pay attention to who's in office. Please pay attention, because we still have to vote. But I need you to understand that even in the voting process, there is still a little thing called prayer that will set things in order. And if you need a reminder, this is what I want y'all to do. Just watch how this plays out. Watch how it plays out. Watch how it plays out. Because if you read, I'm telling you, go back and read 1 Samuel. Saul was in power for years. For years. And it wasn't until God removed his hand from Saul that things started to change. And I just believe that in all of this, God is showing himself to be as big as he says he is. Listen. We shout for what God does, but we should also shout for what he doesn't do. Because when God allows stuff to happen, he's giving the people what they asked for. And in giving the people what they asked for, it also comes with consequences and repercussions. But don't miss it. Don't miss it. Because when he removed his hand, there were certain people that did not get affected. There were certain people that God still helped. There were certain people that God still cultivated. There were certain people who didn't go and didn't miss a meal. There were certain people whose wages still went up. There were certain people who still got promoted. There were certain people that still had certain things that was given to them because they prayed and stayed with God. Here's my reminder to you. He's in office. Stay connected to God. And I promise you, you won't miss a meal. You won't miss a payment. You won't miss a deposit. Everything that has to happen because you're connected to God will pass over. Will pass over. Say it with me. Will pass over. Come on, let's stand.